Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Safety for Cruisers. This is going to be a video focusing on the different kinds of PFDs and how to select and outfit your own PFD for the type of work that you're going to be doing on board. Mostly focused on the racing or cruising with maybe a little bit of kind of crossover into racing. So what we have through here are 3 examples of different kinds of inflatable PFDs. We're going to be focusing on inflatable PFDs, which it's important to know are considered by the Coast Guard Category 5 life vests, so they only count for the life jacket requirement if you are actually wearing them. So you have to have your normal complement of Type 1 or Type 2 regular orange foam life jackets on board for every passenger and every crew member. But obviously those aren't going to be the ones that you're going to be wearing when you're sailing, so that's why we spend the money on these guys. So starting off in the middle, this is an older West Marine inflatable. This was my primary for a lot of years. Served me really well, very comfortable actually. They don't make it anymore, but there's similar ones out here. And this is kind of what I would consider to be a good entry-level model, and I'd say that the PFD itself is acceptable for offshore use, not ideal as we move into the other ones, but it's acceptable. What I don't find acceptable for offshore use is this tether. We'll get into that here in a minute. So starting out with your PFD, basically the premise on this is that there's going to be a bladder with a CO2 cartridge that's going to be either manually or automatically activated by water if you were to go overboard. The 2 types of activation systems, of automatic activation systems, are either going to be a hydrostatic release, which actually relies on water pressure to deploy the cartridge. So if you're doing a lot of really heavy weather sailing or some pretty intense offshore racing, and say if you're going to be working the bow, a hydrostatic system might be might be advantageous to you because they're less prone to automatic activation than the other one, which is a bobbin activation, or basically a dissolvable tablet. So basically there's a little white powder tablet stored inside of the activation system on those guys, and it's going to be over here for this one, and what it does is it dissolves if water comes in and infiltrates that capsule. Something to know about the release mechanisms for both hydrostatic and bobbin is that they do have expiration dates. So normally it'll be every couple of years. You want to make sure that you're keeping that up to date and that you're replacing them as those dates go out. You also want to make sure that when you're inspecting your PFD, each of these you will see is going to have a green window or a green indicator showing that the cartridge, the CO2 cartridge, is pressurized. You can see here this one's getting a little bit old, needs to get retired. You can also see here, upside down for you guys, but it says 33 grams. So that's the size of the canister. And that's going to equate to the buoyancy. So this is a 33 gram, and these are going to be, I believe it's going to be 35 and 37 respectively. These ones are measured in newtons of buoyancy, so this is going to be 170, and this is a 172 as well, I believe. So just different ways of measuring. This is in grams. These guys are newtons because these are made in the UK. So you can kind of see this is how they're designed to work. So the bladder is folded up inside of all these. This one's Velcro. These are zipper. Once that deploys, you're going to get this big Michelin Man look, and that's going to be what keeps you afloat. So these are all bobbin activated. We don't have any hydrostatic release PFTs on board, and it is good. You want to make sure that you have at least one backup cartridge, CO2 cartridge, and one backup release mechanism, whether it's a bobbin or a hydrostatic, for your PFD on your boat. Ideally more if you're going to be going places where you can't get backups, because when one of these goes off and it deploys, that cartridge is spent, that bobbin is spent, you need to replace both of those. So if you don't have any way of replacing them, now you have a PFD that's essentially useless. You can either wear it like a big Michelin man around on deck, which defeats the whole purpose, or you can wear it like this, in which case the only way that you would be able to deploy it would be via the automatic or via the manual inflation tube. So this kind of brings us over to the other side of the vest. Most of them are going to be set up in this fashion, where you're going to have your release mechanism and activation mechanism on one side, which does include, by the way, all of these are going to have a manual release. So this little guys is hiding over here. So this is going to do the exact same thing as that capsule. When it dissolves, if you yank on this, it's going to deploy the CO2 and inflate the vest. You want to make sure that this handle is out of the way enough that it's not going to get caught on things, but not so much that you can't access it. And there are some vests that are only manual activation, so they have no automatic. The only way to get it to deploy is this this handle here, which is obviously a problem, because if you get knocked out, there's no way that that's going to deploy. Whereas these guys, if you get knocked out, they're all designed to turn you face up in the water. So while you're not in a good situation, you're in a lot better situation being face up unconscious with your vest deployed than sinking to the bottom with one not deployed. So back over here to this side, all of these are going to have a manual inflation tube. This is if you're in the water for a prolonged period of time and the vest starts to deflate. You want to do a inflation test every couple of years, deploy it, and watch it over 24 hours. Make sure you don't lose any air. If you do, you probably need to replace the vest or get it serviced. So this guy can supplement the air that you get, and it's also the way to drain it. So it has this little nifty little cap, so say once you get back on board or you're done testing it, you can use the butt end of the cap to depress this little white X complex in there, which will release the air. So that's your release valve as well. Attached to that, I have on this one a light. So any of the Spinlocks all come with this really nifty little telescopy little alien light that's great visibility. If you don't have one of those, you're going to need to attach a light to your PFD. Super important. You will not get found without a light at night. So this is going to drastically increase your odds of survival. Most of them kind of come in these packs where they have some variety of mounting mechanism where you can secure it to your inflation tube. So this is a water-activated strobe. You want to shell out for a nice big bright one. And the other thing that you want to make sure you have is a whistle. So on some of them, you can get a little set that comes with a plastic bracket, and it'll go. The bracket will go on top of the inflation tube with a light on one side and a whistle on the other. This one just has the light separate. The whistle's in one compartment, and then also have a rigging knife in that same compartment. So good to have a knife or a multi-tool on your PFD. Moving on to tethers, so we'll go kind of run through each of these separately. The reason I find this tether to be unacceptable for offshore use is, one, it is a single attachment point. So this is your only way to clip into your boat, which means that if you had to pass either a pad eye on the deck or move from one jack line to another, you're only going to have this one option, and you would have to unclip yourself from the vessel in order to reattach on the other side. That's not a acceptable way of moving around a boat for me when you're offshore, because you expose yourself to that, however brief, moment where you're not connected to the boat. So all offshore tethers should be dual, in my opinion. The other thing is that this is not a quick release. So when you're just kind of storing the vest or down below, you'll have it like this. But as soon as you go up on deck, you're going to need to take this silver end that attaches to the vest, and it needs to go through both of these. The problem is that now, once you're attached to the vessel over here, say you were to go overboard, the only way that you're getting this detached from you is to cut it. And even in a best case scenario with a rigging knife or some kind of cutting tool readily available, it's going to be pretty hard to cut through this, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's elastic, there's all these folds. So I always recommend having some variety of at least pseudo, we'll get to the pseudo quick release mechanism. So obviously you don't want to cut yourself away from the vessel if possible, but say you go over on the leeward side of the boat and you guys are beating up wind and you've got that rail buried in the water. Even if your jacklines are properly set up, if you go over with this tether, you're going to need to cut yourself loose. You're going to be dragged under the boat and you're going to drown. So tether should have a quick release option. Moving on to my personal favorite and my baby here. This is my Spinlock 5D deck vest. So this is got a little bit more buoyancy than the other one. It's a 170 kilonewton buoyancy rating. It is not Coast Guard certified, which is interesting. The new ones are, but these ones are not. Far as the actual safety aspects, I don't really care if it's Coast Guard approved or not. If it's going to keep me alive, and I think it's the best one, I'm going to go ahead and use that when I need an offshore vest. I'll of course be Coast Guard compliant with all of my other PFDs on board and everything else, but I trust my life with this. This was designed for a Volvo Ocean Race, and so this is what I've been using for the last 3 or 4 years. Couple of awesome features about this. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore. Like all good things, it comes to an end. Has a really nifty little mesh pocket here that I keep a rigging tool stored in. So this is a marlin spike with a rigging knife and a little safety tether. Make sure it doesn't go overboard. It does come with a built-in webbing cutter here, but it's a little hard to get out, and it's a bit clumsy to use, so I supplemented it with my own multi-tool. I do really like that they have that pouch built in there. Another cool feature that I like is that this is the deployment handle. So whereas on this guy it's a big red plastic thing hanging down, this is tucked away, it's flush, it's a lot harder to catch on things, but still, you always want to practice your muscle memory. This is a very easy handle to access and deploy even with gloves on. There's a couple different sizes for these, so you want to make sure you size it appropriately, but for me this is just an incredibly comfortable vest. Another great thing that this one comes with is a leg strap setup. So this here would be where the leg straps would attach to in the back. And then in the front, there are buckles. I'm not using the leg straps currently, so this is your buckle over here. Is this a single or a double? Yep, this is a double. So this is my favorite kind of leg strap. This is a dual leg strap. That makes a big difference if you were to, say, go overboard and you're getting dragged behind the boat. Even with a nicely tightened vest, it's going to ride up on you and going to give you some potential problems if you don't have your leg straps on. I do not keep my leg straps on most of the time because they're really uncomfortable and just kind of a pain to set up. So I put them on if we're going to be doing any kind of big heavy weather scenarios that I'm actually concerned about potentially going overboard. Otherwise, I keep them stowed in the little bag. So, a few other things to note about these two is they come with lights and they come with spray hoods. Spray hoods were added to the Spinlock series and some other PFDs after a ocean race up in San Francisco where it was more than one person. There were several people that drowned, not because they were knocked unconscious or not wearing their vests. They were in the water, but due to the heavy seas that are pretty frequent up in that part of the world, they actually drowned just from the waves breaking over them. So Spinlock and a couple other brands got together and decided that that wasn't okay, and so they developed a spray hood, which when this deploys, there's a little tab up here that you pull over, and it's a plastic see-through panel that's attached to the vest, and it actually goes all the way underneath the bladder and secures there. So you have a plastic shield in front of your face. This does have some air holes, so water will get through, but if a 20-foot wave breaks over you, most of that water is going to get deflected and you're going to be able to breathe throughout that process, whereas if you didn't have that, you could well get a face full of water and drown from that. So really big safety factor is the safety as the spray hood that comes with these guys. So there are other companies that do that. My favorite is Spinlock, so that's what I have. And the other thing that I really like about Spinlock is that they have the soft attachment points. This isn't limited to Spinlock, but it's one of the companies that does it. So you only have one point you need to attach to, whereas I was showing you with the other one, you had to unclip it and reclip it to both every time you take it on and off, come up and down below deck. So I really like the single point of attachment, and that's going to segue into my selection for Tether. So there are several companies that do soft attachment points for tethers. This is another nice thing that we can't have anymore. This is a Glofast HLR tether. If you can find one of these, buy as many as you can. You will, I think you'll love them as much as I did. The fantastic thing about this is, one, it's a soft attachment point. I haven't had to take this off in years if I didn't want to. You always want to inspect it and make sure that the fabric is wearing in an acceptable manner, but you don't have to undo this and redo it every time you come up and down below deck. This has a dual tether system, so one short, one long. This is my preference again. You have the long one is essentially your travel tether, so that's the one that you're walking around the boat, transferring over. But you have a short one so that when you're connected in over here, you can now connect over here to your other jack line before you disconnect the other one, which keeps you attached to the boat permanently. I also like having the short one because this is kind of your working tether. So if, say, you're on the bow, you're working on the furler, something happened up there, you clip this one in, you have a shorter point of attachment which allows you to kind of lean back. You can anchor yourself a little bit better. We'll show you this when we do the jackline video. But having the two different lengths is really nice. It gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's my preferred method. One of the reasons that I absolutely adore the Glofast is because it has this HLR system, high load release. It's the only company I found that does this, but basically I'm a skydiver, so this is kind of home territory for me. This uses it's a 2-ring system. Skydivers use a 3-ring system, but what this does is this is your release handle. So say you're underway, you go over and you're getting dragged under the boat, you need to cut yourself loose. This handle pulls out of the top and it pulls out, that pin releases, and then this fabric will feed through the loops and you can release yourself with 4 people hanging off you. There's no amount of force that you can apply to this very slick fabric pin or this very slick fabric cord that will allow this pin to get jammed up. So this is by far the best high load release system on the market that I've found, which is why skydivers use it. Unfortunately, like I said, can't seem to find these anymore. So this is great because not only can you release it under any load, but it's easy to release under load, which we'll cover as a problem for the pseudo release systems over here. So that's tethers. Far as the other things that I've chosen to outfit my my vest with, it has a whistle and a light internally, which is great. I have a PLB on mine, so this is the PLB1. It's the ocean signal. They're a little harder to get now. Most of them you'll see are the one that we have over here. It's going to be the ACR, and this is basically a mini EPIRB. So this is we'll go into the signals and the EPIRBs and PLBs more in depth later. But this allows you to get found anywhere in the world. This signal will punch out from 99.9% of locations on the globe and will allow you to get found. So if you go overboard, that is your best option for independent rescue, not including the vessel that you're were on. Another thing that I really like that I've got on mine is a rescue streamer. So this is there's different sizes, but basically this is a day signal. So we have our strobe, we have our built-in strobe here at night, and this is our day signal. So it's incredibly hard to see just a little orange or a little head with a yellow or orange, whatever color your PFD is, bobbing around in the water, even in moderately calm seas. So this, if you have they come in, I believe it's 5 and 10 foot options. If you roll this out, now you've got a giant long orange thing floating up and down, flashing around on the waves. It's a lot easier to be seen both from the air and on the sea. So that is how I have my vest set up. I love it. It's my favorite. I'm not going to get rid of it till I absolutely have to. But If you can't find one of these and you're in the market for a good offshore vest, this is the Spinlock 60. So this is what replaced my PFD model-wise. And there's some differences. The handle's on the opposite side. It doesn't have a pocket, so they actually did away with some things that I kind of liked. The leg straps are, it's a crotch strap. It's not individual leg straps, it's a crotch straps. You're only going to get one that goes from the bottom and clips into the top here. It's not removable, hence why we have this one wrapped, because it's a mighty pain to deal with. One thing they did add that's kind of cool though is that they have, what do they call it here? This is the, it's a HRS, harness release system. So you can actually purchase an additional item that will go in here, and what it does is it will essentially, if you trigger it, it will cut you loose from this harness. It's something that they were working hard on to develop, and they're pretty proud of. I'm not a giant fanatic about it, just because the type of sailing I do, but it's a good system for some people. So quickly touch on, well, this is essentially the same gear, just a different way of storing it. So we have an ACR PLB inside there, and we have the rescue streamer there. Lights and whistles are internal, and this is kind of your garden variety dual leg tether. So it has the two legs. It has the long and the short that work in the travel, which is nice. And one thing they do on here, that one has it as well, but this one's kind of clear. This has a load indicator. So say you actually use this tether, you go over these stitches here. It says very clearly, if the stitch is parted, tether has been overstressed, replace the item. So if these blue stitches rip out, you know that it has passed its useful life and it's time to get a new one. It saved your life once, don't make it do it again. Moving on to the one thing that I find to be kind of the weak point of this tether. It's kind of your entry level. It's affordable. I think it's only $85-90 at West Marine. This is the connection point to the tether. So it's a little bit like an enduro motorcycle. It's designed to go off-road and on-road, but it doesn't really do both or either that well. So this is designed to be a quick connect in terms of if this is loaded up, the idea is that if you yank on this hard enough, you will be able to release it, which is true, but it could potentially take a lot of force depending on how strong you are and depending on how much load you have under it. The other problem with this is that I've seen these come undone. There's a big old loop on the end of this thing. If this gets caught on a pad-eye, on the binnacle, on whatever, this can pop right off, and now you're not attached to your tether anymore. So I really would like to see some companies develop some alternatives to this quick release system, but this is what we have, and this is kind of a decent option. So I've done ocean crossings on this. It's not ideal, but if you can't find a better system, then this is what you can go with. So that has been your not so short 20+ minute on how to set up your offshore PFD. If you guys have other models or you have specific questions about other setups, please feel free to leave a comment or shoot me a message. I'm always happy to go over more things, and if you guys shoot me a question I don't know, I'll look up the answer and get right back to you. I'll see you on the next one.